Well, welcome everyone to the Master of Travel Advisor Series. My name is John Werner. I'm the president of Mass Travel Network. We're a group of over 200 travel agencies and 1,500 travel advisors selling travel, planning travel for clients and customers all over the world. And we specialize in groups and tours. And with us today, we actually have one of our preferred tour companies, tour suppliers that we work with. And I want to welcome Arin Vaughan to the program. And Arin, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you do at Insight Vacations and also give us a little preview of what Insight does for travelers.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here today. As John mentioned, my name is Arin Vaughan, and I am the Director of Strategic Accounts over Insight Vacations, one of our 6 tour brands. And Insight really, well, I guess to go back a little bit, I've been with the company for a little over 7.5 years now. So I've seen sort of how it's evolved in the last few years and how it's occupying this really great space in the touring segment, where it's offering these premium style vacations with business class style feel. And we'll get into that, I think, in a minute, just sort of what that means. But the company's been around for over 45 years, and they sit sort of in this premium space on their own, really, because you'll see a lot of touring companies will fall more into a contemporary space or more in a luxury space. But Insight really fits between those two in a really nice niche that really allows people to travel in that elevated fashion with smaller group sizes and things like that to really hone into their type of travel preference, really.
Yeah, that's great. And it's been exciting to see how the tours have evolved over the years within your program. We're going to get also into that in just a little bit. But you just a moment ago, you mentioned about business class style service. So,
Mhm.
and it also on your website, you also state that. So why don't you tell us what that really means?
Yeah, sure. So business class style is, well, I think because it sits in the premium space, we hear premium a lot in the travel industry, right? With cruise lines and touring suppliers, all these different things. And premium can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So we brought in the tagline of business class style to really help visualize what clients are going to get when they're on an Insight vacation. So you really want to think about elevated premium experiences across the entire trip. So every point of interest they touch on that trip is going to have that more elevated premium feel. So again, coming down to smaller group sizes, to the type of accommodations we use, being 4 and 5 star properties, to custom luxury motor coaches. We're the only ones in the industry that have customized our motor coaches to only have 40 seats on them. So you're getting almost double the amount of leg room and big panoramic windows. And it also means more access to experiences. We're going in sometimes before or after they open to the public. So, really just taking it a step further and making sure that we are truly elevating not only the style in which they're traveling, but all of the elements within.
Yeah, and I think that's an appropriate term because, travelers understand what premium, business class is like on a plane and with the extra leg room and, a little more room, in the seats. And that's exactly what your coaches offer. So I think it's a good visual for people to understand what that means. So, the other thing that I wanted to ask is, you say that a traveler can tailor their experience. So, do you want to define what that is and what you mean by that?
Sure. So when we talk about Insight Vacations, what we mean by tailor your vacation is because we have different travel styles within and we travel year round and we have different group sizes and all of these different elements that guests can choose from to really tailor it down to what speaks to their personal interests when they travel. So think about what time of year they want to travel. They can choose that. They can choose whether they want a classic group size or a small group size. They can choose one of our 4 travel styles. So depending on how much they want to see and do, how fast pace they want to travel. And they can even personalize certain elements within the trip as well. So when we say tailor, we mean that yes, we have this one company called Insight Vacations that offers touring on 5 different continents, a lot of different options to choose from. But because we have this global travel company, there are all of these elements within planning your trip that you get to choose from to really make sure that you're picking the right itinerary for your travel styles.
Okay. So would that mean then on your tours, of course, experiences and sightseeing and so forth is included.
Mhm.
Would somebody be able to actually change out a tour or something and say, I want to do this instead, or like a little, maybe make it more private? Is that what you mean?
No, so they are going to be preset itineraries. When we say tailor your vacation, we mean more so like, again, choosing the travel style that best
Okay.
speaks to you. Or
Right.
there is a little bit of personalization within the experiences. And
Okay.
I know that you were going to ask me in a little while sort of what that personalization means. So we can
Right.
talk about it then.
Okay.
Um, but yes, it is going to be your standard scheduled departure itinerary with the items included. It's more so just tailoring it to if you like to travel in the winter as
Right.
opposed to the summer, or if you want to take a little more time in the destination rather than going
Okay.
to a ton of different countries. So
Okay.
really tailoring the itinerary that you choose based on what
Sure.
your travel style is.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I get it. So, yeah, I mean, the touring styles that you have, of course, you have traditional
Mhm.
tours that might be multi-country and, over 10 days or 2 weeks. And I believe you call that Discover Journeys or Discovery Journeys.
Mhm.
And so walk us through a typical, one of the more popular, let's say, Discovery Journeys.
Oh goodness, there's so many popular ones. Discovery Journeys, I think, is really built for maybe people traveling to, let's say, Europe for the first time, right? So they
Mhm.
really want to dive in and sort of, I like to refer to it as the sampler platter because it really gives
Mhm.
them a little taste of each country they're going to, really hitting the very best of what that destination has to offer. I would say the most popular ones are done in Europe. So a lot of those will cover the UK, France, Germany, Switzerland, just kind of that big loop.
Right.
Um, because again, for people who haven't been to Europe, they might be like, I don't know where to start, right? Like, I don't know which country to tag into first. So that's sort of where discovery journeys really come into
Mhm.
play. It's sort of for
Yeah.
that first time traveler. And most of those are going to be in Europe.
Yes. Yeah. That's very true. And yeah, I think it is for people who, they've heard about all the iconic cities and
Mhm.
sites in
Yes.
Europe. So when they go to Paris, they just want to make sure that they see the Eiffel Tower. When they go to Rome, they want to see the Colosseum and the Vatican. And so that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
But then you also have regional journey. So that seems to me to be for people who, maybe they maybe have been to Europe once or twice before, but there's a favorite area. So why don't you go, describe those a little bit more in depthly?
Yeah, absolutely. And you really hit it on the head there, right? So it could be a first time traveler, but more often it's people that are wanting to go back to explore a little bit more. So, say they're taking a trip and they visit a country and they're like, oh my gosh, I loved it. I love the people. I love the food. I want to see what this is more about. So, our regional journeys are really carefully curated and planned to explore one region or one country, even.
Mhm.
It's much more in depth. They really get to know the people, the traditions, the culture, because you're spending more time exploring just that place. So,
Mhm.
for example, Spain or Spain and Portugal are a really great example of a regional type trip that we do. People want to dive in and take more time sort of in the country in Spain, stop at the little beach towns, work their way through Portugal and do port tastings and
Mhm.
stud farms and things like that. So it really gives them the option to sort of take that additional step behind the scenes to really dig into what that region or that country has to offer.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so true, and I know why they're very popular, um,
Mhm.
because that seems to be a big trend nowadays for somebody to really, and it's especially the frequency of travel.
Mhm.
So it's not always, just a once in a lifetime type trip. They know they're going to go back,
Mhm.
let's say to Europe, and they'll say, they feel like, okay, this time we're going to concentrate on, like you mentioned, the Spain and Portugal combination, and next time it might be Italy, a region within Italy. So it makes a lot of sense to offer, this kind. But so country roads is another touring style. How is that different than from the regional journeys?
Yeah, so country roads really focuses more on steering clear of the super highly populated tourist areas, if that makes sense. So it really
Hmm.
sends people off on these unexpected adventures through smaller regions or smaller
Hmm.
towns along the way, really digging into some of the back roads of the destination. They see a lot of hidden gems along these
Yeah,
styles. They see a lot of local flavor, really digging in. So, again, I think as you graduate through these styles, you're just taking one step further every time to getting
right.
sort of behind the scenes and really digging into the local characters, and learning just a completely different viewpoint of what that destination has to offer. So it really is more of that. You'll see some of the high ticket items, but these ones much more focus on the behind the scenes and
Right.
sort of those back roads, if you will.
Yeah. I think it's so great that Inside Vacations is offering that kind of touring style because I'm sure there's a lot of travelers that have heard about how busy cities like Amsterdam or Venice or Barcelona are, and they
Mm-hmm.
might be thinking, "Gosh, I would like to go where it's not crowded," and this gives them an opportunity to do that and to see a side of Europe that a lot of people they don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I love it. I love the concept. And then there's Easy Pace. So how is that different?
Yeah, so Easy Pace is my personal favorite if I had to choose one of them because it allows more time on your own in the destination. So it really gives the guest this leisurely paced itinerary where they're getting a minimum of 3 nights in each destination. So they're not having to move around as much. They're really getting to focus on the places that they're visiting. And it has a lot more free time built in. So, not saying that there's
Mhm.
not ample free time on the other styles.
Right.
As you can imagine, with like discoveries, you're going pretty quickly because you're covering a lot of ground. With
Sure.
easy pace, you may be covering a certain part of a country or
Yeah.
even a region, but you're really digging in locally. So 3 nights in each destination means you're typically getting a sightseeing day, you're typically getting a day at leisure, so you can plan your day based on what you want to see and do. Just really making sure that they get to check all of the boxes that they are personally interested in. So, really sort of diving into their own travel personality. But again, with the name of it, you see easy pace. It's just a very leisurely, relaxed way to get to dive in and really truly explore every nook and cranny of the places that they're traveling to.
Yeah, and again, that's another travel style that is very popular today, and it's great that you're addressing that type of traveler too through this touring style because some people think, well, I don't want to take a tour because it's go go go, or I'm expected to be at a certain place at a certain time, and this allows the benefits of taking a tour and you have the tour guide, you have the business class style motor coach.
Mhm.
So you can travel in style, but you can still have some freedom. And that's just great for the traveler seeking that kind of an experience.
It is. And I
So,
think to your point, knowing that there are so many different travel personalities, I think it's crucial for
yeah,
people to understand that just because you see a travel supplier does not mean it's a one trip fits all type scenario. So it's
right.
really great that you know you're getting the consistency and the quality of an insight vacation no matter what you choose, but you still have that sort of freedom and flexibility to choose what's best going to work for you and the people you're traveling with. So I think that that's a really great way to like what we talked about earlier, to tailor the way you're
Mhm.
traveling with us, but knowing that you're still with a trusted brand and you know exactly what you're getting
Right.
every time you step on the coach or
Yeah.
every time you encounter a travel director. That's all very consistent across the board. It just gives them the opportunity to really travel at their pace.
Yeah, now I know what you mean by, tailor, your vacation that way. And, I mean, obviously the connections and the relationships that Insight has in Europe and elsewhere around the world, of course,
Mhm.
but that you've already, you've tested, the company has seen the hotels that you're using.
Yeah.
It really would give a traveler also a lot of confidence to know that they're traveling with a reputable tour company.
Mhm.
And so that's a big benefit to go along with that. So I also know that you're addressing, travel for all kinds of demographics, we'll call it. So
Mhm.
solo travel is huge.
Sure.
And then there's a component or a segment within solo travel because I know you also have tours that are oriented towards women solo travelers too. So you want to talk a little bit about just the solo travel segment and then maybe a little bit more specifically to women solo travelers.
Yeah, absolutely. So solo travel is something that we are seeing obviously grow rapidly. People, I think, especially after everything we've gone through in the past few years, right? Um, People are not waiting around to find friends and family that want to travel with them. If they want to go somewhere, they're going to go check it off their wish list and they want to make sure that they're seeing it and doing it in a way that they enjoy. And we understand that on the touring side. So group travel should not be exclusively for groups to travel together. We want to make sure that we're accommodating every segment of people that want to travel. So we will always have a number of rooms allocated on every tour for solo travelers. Those typically are first come, first serve. So if you know that you want to travel alone or you know of somebody wanting to travel alone, the earlier you sign up for those, the better chance you have of getting the solo rooms, just because there's only so many single rooms in hotels, especially in Europe.
Mhm.
But we do like to cater to them. We want them to know that, they're going to make friends, even if there's only a few solo travelers on that trip. I have been on multiple trips, and every time you see those solo travelers integrated into the larger group. And I think that's the beauty of group travel is you make these friends from all over the world that you then become lifelong friends with. And you never know, next time you might be rooming with a fellow traveler that you met on another one. But yeah, we try to make
Absolutely.
it very, very easy for
Yeah.
people who want to travel alone to have access to that. And to your point, a large segment of those solo travelers are women. Um, a lot of them are retirees. A lot of them could be widowed. Some just, again, want to travel on their own and see it and do it their way.
Mhm.
So we decided to come back. So years ago, we had a couple options that were women only trips with Insight. This year, we decided to bring it back in full form. So we now have 11 different itineraries that are small group itineraries, so 24 max, of women travelers. So there's 40% more solo opportunity on those trips, but it's women traveling together with a woman travel director. When we can get a female driver, we do. They aren't as, we don't have as many of those. But they're planned by women within our organization and our
Mhm.
operations team. They really sort of hone in on some experiences that speak to women's culture in
Mhm.
these different destinations. So, providing women the opportunity to work in certain destinations or certain female artisans in different places. So,
Mhm.
there are these trips that really, really tap into bringing women together to travel in a way that they are sort of very, very comfortable and very
Yeah.
excited to travel with other women, and then sort of build in this whole other element of women focused events while they're in the
Yeah.
destination.
I think that's so cool. And I think one of the aspects about it is the um, opportunity, like you mentioned, maybe women-owned businesses in some of these um, cities as they're traveling, and to really see a different side of the local culture in these places, and to meet entrepreneurs that have started successful businesses. I think that just brings a whole different perspective too for for that kind of a trip.
1,000%. Yeah, I think that it's very heartwarming and very eye-opening, and it also speaks directly to our sustainability initiatives.
Mhm.
One of those pillars is people, so it's really, really important for us to make sure that we're tapping into that aspect of local economies,
Mhm.
as well as some of the food and wildlife and things like that.
Sure, sure. Yeah. All the traditional elements that people look for or want to experience, but then the added focus, I guess you
Yeah.
could call it. And so that's just really amazing. So, you touched upon groups,
Mhm.
and of course, the whole concept of the touring is groups.
Mhm.
But again, you do a lot of different, there's a lot of opportunities for groups in different ways. And you can have the traditional group sizes, but you can also put small groups together. You mentioned that. And so can you tell us just a little bit more about the small group offerings?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have so within Insight, right? So Insight is traditional guided vacations where you're traveling on a luxury motor coach with a group of people, most of whom you don't know. So we have two different sizes when you're booking individually. So we have our classic size, which is a maximum of 40, usually averages about 33 on those trips. And then we have our small group size, which is a maximum of 24, usually averages between 16 and 20, depending on where you're going and what you're doing there. Then we also have a groups department, which is a whole new level of how you can travel together. So we have something called allocated groups, where when you have 9 people or more, you can request space on an existing departure. So we'll basically just allocate a number of seats for your group on that existing departure. So you're all traveling together. There will still be other people from around the world, but that way you're getting to sort of make sure you're all together and have all of that
Mhm.
taken care of in one booking. We also have something called custom groups. So for a minimum of 10 people, so once you hit 10 people traveling, we can completely customize an itinerary for you. So that means we could do a custom departure date. We can choose the accommodations that you want. So maybe they're ones that we already use on trip. Maybe they're ones that you know you want to stay in that we can contract that way. We can completely customize the experiences on trip, the meals that you want, how fast paced you want to go. If there's a certain affinity that you all are interested in. So if it's book club, wine club, a
Mhm.
military group, whatever that looks like, for a minimum of 10 people, we can completely customize that experience for you. So it gives you a lot more freedom and flexibility
Mhm.
to really hone in on what that group needs out of their vacation or out of their trip. And we do all of the heavy lifting for that. So, meaning that we do all the planning, we do all the contracting, and we deliver you just kind of this beautiful vacation with a bow on top.
So and then so they can pick their style of accommodations too, or choose their style.
Yep.
What kind of motor coach would they be traveling in if it's a group that's only, 12, 15 people?
Yeah, if it's an Insight trip, then they're still using an Insight coach. So they'll still get that luxury motor coach, which, has leather seats as opposed to cloth. Again, you have about 6 to 8 inches more legroom than a traditional coach. So yeah, you're still getting the benefits of everything that a vacation would offer with Insight Vacations, but just your group going.
Okay. Yeah, big benefits in doing it that way, certainly. A lot of people try to, small groups and like family groups or whatever, sometimes they try to piece things together themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if they think that they don't know any better, and that's why they would come to a masked travel advisor so that they could figure out all their options
Mm-hmm.
and take a look at an Insight Vacation tour as a great option that would work for exactly what they want.
Thousand.
So you also mentioned special interest tours. So I
Mhm.
guess that is a little bit as a takeoff from what we were just talking about with the small groups, but um, what are some of the special interests that you've seen your company has been like maybe just things that are happening even in the current year? What are people coming to ask for?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll do trips. A lot of our special interest itineraries are built around festivals or events or cultural interests. around the world, really. So that
Yeah.
could be anything from we have departures that specifically go to visit the Chelsea Flower Show, right?
Mhm.
So for people who are interested in gardening and flowers and things like that, we have things like that. We have itineraries that fall over holidays. So we have Christmas market groups. We have
Mhm.
things that fall over New Year's or perhaps um, St. Patrick's Day or some of those type things, right? A lot of holy celebrations that we typically have itineraries that travel through. So it's really tapping into things that are special interest in terms of like special things happening in the destinations or around an event that's going on that has become very popular, right? Like the Tulip Festival, all of
Right.
those different things. And really making sure that we offer departures so that people can go and experience those one-off type experiences rather
Yeah.
than just your traditional touring.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess you could even put in the mix popular culture, whether it be movie sets and
Yes.
scenes, and of course concerts now.
Yeah,
People are
right.
talking about a Beyonce concert or Taylor Swift or something. So you could
Taylor
probably
Swift, I
put a
know. Yeah,
groups
absolutely. No, and I
together.
think to your point, that's absolutely right. So we have Outlander tours. We have tours that specifically talk about Game of Thrones still, Downton Abbey.
Mhm.
There's a lot of
Right.
that set jetting is what they call it.
Yes.
So going to
Yeah.
the different sets of where these movies are created and sort of the places that have become
Yeah.
popular, or even just a country that it was filmed in. It might not have
Yes.
anything to do with the sets. They're just like, oh, hey, I know Game of Thrones was taped in Croatia for a bit. I want to go to
Right.
Dubrovnik. And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
great, let's do it.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, to your point, a lot of movie travel.
Yes. Yeah. It's um, a good partnership, if you will, between the travel industry and the entertainment industry.
It
It
ties it together well. Yes.
right, it certainly does. So um, I know at the very beginning we talked about tailoring your tour and also personalizing your tour.
Mhm.
So, what other elements should you would you want to talk about when it comes to personalizing your tour?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that there's two main ways that you can personalize your tour while you're in destination. So we say tailor your tour, meaning again, going back to that, choosing the time of year that works for you and the travel style and things like that. Within the trip, we always have two different elements that you can personalize while you're on trip. One of those is called our insight experiences. And that means there are typically two included experiences, for say in Vienna, and you get to choose which of those interests you more. So it's
Sure.
essentially just choosing between two included experiences that day.
Okay.
The other option to personalize is called dine around. So on certain nights throughout the trip, there will be three included dinner options, and the guests get to choose which dinner option they want to eat at that evening. So it's not the entire group going together. It's
Right.
these are the three restaurants. You get to choose which one you're more interested in. So you're breaking off into smaller groups. You're sort of getting to know the people that obviously have common
Right.
interests in things like food. So you have a bit more time to speak a bit more intimately with the people that are in your same
Hmm.
experience or restaurant. So again, it's just a way to add in a little more choice while they're traveling because we understand that freedom and flexibility and choice is very important to travelers. So while they're getting a lot of that choice out of the way when they're booking the trip, we want to make sure
Hmm.
that while they're on trip, not only during their free time, but during a lot of the things that are included, they still have elements of that choice to be able to make it their own, if you will.
Right. I love it. I think that's wonderful that if two people are traveling together, friends or spouses or whatever, one may have a certain type of interest, whereas the other one wants to do something different altogether. Maybe something more adventurous and exerting, while the other person wants a little bit less walking and a little less
Mhm.
exertion. That's great. And then the dining too. What's so wonderful about that? It's included. You've already vetted the restaurants. And that's a big deal. I think, other tours will often, they'll give you nights where you get to dine on your own, but you
Mhm.
really are on your own. They don't necessarily have, places that are already, can be included. You just have to choose which one you want to go to.
Right. And
So,
that's the beauty of the travel director, right? Is like
yeah.
on those free nights, you have them as a really great resource and the local experts that travel with us as well. So you have sort of that recommendation, but say you're in a country that is not English speaking,
Hmm.
trying to figure out like menu items or
Right.
directions to get there. All of those different things can become very overwhelming for travelers.
Hmm.
So knowing that those people that are adventurous and want to do that absolutely have that option, and we can steer them in the direction of some of the like very local restaurants where locals
Right.
love to eat if they want some of that very authentic flavor, or perhaps they want something more showy, so they want to go
Sure.
and eat dinner and a show. We can recommend those things in the free time, but to your point, everything we offer as an inclusion is heavily vetted. They have to reach quality and service
Mhm.
thresholds. And if they don't, then we go back and reevaluate that relationship. And we're like, hey, you're
Mhm.
not hitting these metrics. We either got to bring it up or we got to choose somewhere else
Right.
because our guests expect that quality and that consistency across the brand, right? So, to your point, we take that very, very seriously. So, they do know that as they're getting some of these included things, they are going to be great
Yeah.
experience.
No, it's just great, and even more reason to travel with Insight Vacations.
Mhm.
That it's you make it easy.
Yes.
It's for people, and yet they still have choices they can make and flexibility and so
Mhm.
forth. So as we get closer to wrapping it up, great conversation. I just wanted to ask you if there's anything else you want to tell us about your company and your tours.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's important to note that Insight is a part of the Travel Corporation. So the Travel Corporation is our parent company, and it's been in business for 103 years. So even though Insight is just shy of 50 years, we have an additional 50 years of experience in contracting and global footprint, and we have offices
Mhm.
all over the world. So knowing that you have that layer of safety and security when you're traveling with Insight Vacations, I think is a really, really great thing to know ahead of time as you start researching through what trips you want to take with us and what travel styles you want to tap into. And something you said earlier, I think is also really important, the ease, right? The
Mhm.
ease of booking the travel, the ease of showing up and having everything taken care of, the ease of knowing that you have very, very skilled employees on the road
Mhm.
with you for the entirety of your trip. It's all really important information. Like vacations are not free, and we understand that, and we want people to really have a trust and a confidence
Mhm.
in where they're putting those dollars when they travel. We take that very seriously, and our travelers are obviously our number one priority. So we want to make sure that we're bringing these destinations to life, and we are truly offering our guests an experience that they will never forget. We want people, I tell people all the time, right? A passport should be more than just ink on a page. It should really be this sort of scrapbook of
Mhm.
core memory. So every time you look at that, it brings a moment back to life for
Mhm.
you. And I think that that is what Insight Vacations offers our guests around the world is every time they open that passport and they see that stamp, they're like, oh, remember that restaurant or
Mhm.
remember that site or remember just the feeling we had traveling with our friends and family. And I really believe that that's what Insight delivers.
Yeah. Well, I think that's neat that you bring up the passport as there's a lot of things that people bring back as
Mhm.
memories of the trip.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think, again, the pass looking at your passport and everything is one of those. And maybe it's not something that people think of,
Mhm.
but when they do pull out their passport for the next trip, yes, the memories are all come back. So,
Right.
I mean, that's great. Well, anyway, I really appreciate your time, Aaron, and talking to me today and giving us a wonderful insight to Insight Vacations. So,
Right.
thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to me today.